Hi, I'm Larry. Today we're going to walk you through how to properly track the belt on the G0458Z drum sander. So the first thing you're going to want to do is loosen all of your bolts. We're going to take the tension off of these bolts and start from the very beginning for this. And you should have movement on both sides of your belt. One thing you're going to notice when we're tracking is when we get towards the end, we want to lift up on these bars, otherwise you'll never get it to track. After you loosen everything, you want to start this at the very top on both sides. So now that the belt is loose, we're going to now start putting tension on the belt so that it will track properly. So first thing you want to do is do this by hand. You can put something in there at some point if you want to hold it, and then we're going to manually by hand move these bolts and tighten them until they stop on both sides. Now that we've done that, there should be a flat belt going across. Now we want to take this, and I use the flat spots on the bolts, and we want to do at least one more half turn on this bolt to get the proper tension on both sides. And then we can hand lock these bolts in. This now should no longer move, and this belt should be flat. And I am just using a 13 millimeter. These are 13 millimeter bolts and nuts. That is locked. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Now that's locked. So now the belt is flat and it's not going to move. The next thing we're going to do is lift up on the roller, and then we're going to lock these nuts. So if you don't lift up on those rollers and you have one on one side that's up and one side that's down, then the belt or the roller, is doing this or this. We want it to be flat, both of them on each side. This issue is what causes the belt to move drastically. So as we go to tighten these, you just want to lift up on them, and then we're going to lock these in place. Then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we want to mark the belt. It's easiest to use the seam in the belt, otherwise the belt tends to do this and you can't keep track. This is the best way to mark your belt to know if the belt's tracking in or tracking out, by using that mark. This is now set up. You're going to run the machine. Putting it on high is the best option. It makes the belt move the quickest. You can turn it on, and then as the belt starts to track, you're going to track on this side. We know that these belts naturally want to come to the right side, so we're going to put tension on this side to move the belt that way. Now, if for some reason the belt does move this way, then put tension on the other side. But as the machine's going, you're going to then start putting tension on here. You can make drastic turns as I'm doing right now, depending on what the belt's doing. So if it's moving a lot, then move the screw a lot. If the belt is starting to move slowly, then start slowing down on your turns. The easiest way to do the turns is to use the flat spot on your Allen wrench to keep track of what you're doing, or use this portion of the Allen wrench, something that you know what you're doing. As you start turning, you're going to want to do small turns, and then maybe another small turn, and then possibly one more. If you get to a point where you've turned this and the belt now starts tracking that way and will not come back, and you need to restart where you were, so we know that we were here to begin on that last turn, you don't want to do this. You want to go back to where you were, do one full turn out, come back to start where you were, and then do a half a turn. So now you can see that I'm not fully back to where I was. I've turned it just a little bit. If you ever have to come back so that a belt comes back this way, you want to completely go back past what you were and then come back to your original position and then do a slight adjustment. And this will take quite a bit of time. On the first one, it will go fairly quick. It will usually happen within 5, maybe 10 minutes. As you start doing your micro adjustments, that's when you're going to start using your line over here, and you are going to want to let it run for a minimum of 10 to 15 minutes, because as it starts to move, it may move very slowly, but your eye won't catch it because of the small movement that it's doing. So at that point, let it run for 10, 15 minutes. Each adjustment you do, it should run that long. And then check it, and then do any more adjustments that you may need to do. So this is a quick overview on how to track the belt on an 0458, 0458Z series drum sanders. If you go through all of this and you still have issues with the tracking, there is a possibility that you may need to move this motor in. And if that's the case, then you're going to loosen everything. You're going to move that motor in. Sometimes it only goes in a 32nd of an inch, and that's all that matters. But you move it in, all you got to do is loosen the bolts, push the motor in, tighten the bolts just like we did on the front one, and then you just start all over on your tracking. Thanks for following along. This is Larry. I hope this was helpful for you. Go make some sawdust. This is Larry. I'm the best employee here at Grizzly. Come look at me in the showroom. Oh, no. Okay, say that again.